So April is Child Abuse Awareness Month. Sexual assault is included in that, as is child abuse, neglect, emotional, physical, it doesn't matter, whatever one considers to be abuse. This is a subject that hits near and dear to my heart because I am a survivor. And I thought I would spend some time kind of going over how prevalent sexual assault is and how underreported it is and how important it is for us to step up and protect our kids, protect one another, believe when people tell you. You hear the term sexual assault. Many people think that it's an adult issue, and it's not. 70% of all reported cases are kids under 17. Sadly, 15% of those are under 12. Most 12-year-olds haven't even hit puberty. For me, that was the case. I started being sexually abused at the age of 6, and it was molestation and rape, and it went through the age of 14. 20% of kids under 18 will be sexually assaulted in their life. We're all going to know someone who has been sexually assaulted, abused in some way. And that, in and of itself, tells us that something needs to be done. Less than 20% of kids who are sexually abused ever receive the care and the treatment that they need. When we don't take care of our children, this abuse that starts as kids is going to lead to issues as adults. The thing that is maybe most profound and impactful for me to tell you is that 90% of kids that are abused and molested are going to be molested or assaulted by someone that they know. It could be a family member, it could be a friend, it could be somebody in their church, it could be anybody. In our society, in our culture, we teach stranger danger. But we are not stepping up and letting our children know that it's not typically a stranger. It's going to be somebody that you know. And when it's somebody that you know, they need to feel comfortable in telling you. If a kid trusts you to tell you this information, we need to believe them. That's the first sign of stopping this, is believing the child. It is very, very rare that a kid makes up that they are being molested. Kids grow up to be adults, right? I mean, that's the goal. That's the transition of adult or of childhood sexual abuse survivors that turn into adults. Half will never disclose that they've ever been abused. That means that half are not getting any help. As adults, how many of these kids are getting help? Are you stepping up and helping? Are you listening? Are you advocating? Are you stopping the abuse? We are in a place in our society where we like to victim blame. You know, if you look at the sexual assault reports and that people are coming forward and telling, we only hear when it's somebody famous, right? You don't open the news and read about it in your day-to-day news. And, you know, that's part of our society and our culture. But if you look at when people come forward and say, Bill Cosby did this to me, everybody looked at, why didn't you tell sooner? She wants money. She just wants the attention. That isn't the truth. It is so rare for false reports. It is just tremendously rare. And by saying, she just wants money, she just wants attention, we're victim blaming. We are, in essence, having someone relive the abuse and then not believing. So then there's another form of abuse. I can't speak for everybody. My story is drastically different than everybody's. This is going to be the first time that I've ever said this in such a public way. I was from a broken home, which most of us are, and my parents had divorced when I was young. I was 5, and both of my parents moved on, and I'm trying to think of the word because this is going to be a public video, and my intent is not to hurt anybody, but I lived with my mother, and she remarried, and her new father-in-law began molesting me almost immediately. And I can't even remember in all certainty when it went from molestation to rape, but it did. And I was, I believe, 12. I've got a lot of treatment, and I have worked through a lot of it, but I don't remember everything. I have a lot of suppressed and repressed memories, and that's okay with me. I don't know that I want to remember everything, but I do remember enough. And I believe I was 12 when I came forward and told her that it was happening, and I wasn't believed, and nothing was done. And there was a certain level of victim blaming then. I was around too much. I made it too easy. First, people need to understand, this was someone who babysat and lived next door. And it was a member of the family. It's not as easy to distance yourself from that. And once you've told the one person that you should be able to trust with everything and nothing is done, you're less likely to tell someone else because, this was my mother. If anybody was going to support me and protect me, one would think that's who it was going to be. The abuse went on for about 2 more years after I told her, and it wasn't until I was old enough to realize that I was the only person I could count on. So I kept myself away as much as possible. For me, my outlet was sports. I participated in a sport all year long as a way of being out of my home. As an adult, for me to be able to go from being a victim to a survivor, I had to let go. I had to realize that I wasn't only just abused by my abuser, but the impact and the magnification of that abuse was worse because my mother did nothing to protect me. So not only did I have to recover from the abuse, the assault, the rape that should have never happened, then I also had to work through how I felt about not being able to trust the person that I was supposed to be able to trust. For me, that was harder to come to terms with than the actual abuse. But it also impacted me so profoundly that it made me the person that I am. I promised myself then that I would not be that kind of parent, and I am not. So as the month goes on, and between abuse and autism, since April's Autism Awareness Month, you'll probably hear enough from me that you don't want to hear. But I want to open the lines of communication and help people to realize that they're not alone in your struggle and your healing, and what you have to do to heal is yours. And no one can tell you it's wrong. No one can tell you that you must do something to heal. One of the things that I can think I've been told by many, many people in my life is I have to forgive. in order for myself to heal, and that's not true. There are certain things that are unforgivable, and I think this is one of them. And I don't think I'll ever forgive either my abuser or those around that knew and did nothing to stop it. And I'm okay with that and have healed. Like I said, I am no longer a victim. I've taken back my power. I'm no longer going to be silenced. I am a safe place to go when people don't have anybody to turn to or don't have the courage or the strength to stand up. I've taken back my power. And for me, part of that is talking about it. So as the month goes on, I'm going to share different forms of maybe treatment, things that have worked for me in terms of healing and moving on, and forgiveness is not one of them. And I also hope to answer questions and be a form of support. Some people aren't as far along in their healing, so they can't advocate for themselves. They may still be in the situation, and that's not safe either. So I've rambled. This did not go as I anticipated, but I'm trying to kind of remove my emotion. But in this same note, let people know that it's real. This is real life, and it's everywhere. And we need to stop it. We need to educate our kids. We need to support one another. When people tell, we need to stop victim blaming. And we also need to understand that there's a huge portion of the population that's going to be impacted by this that we'll never even know. We discuss in this country about having a mental health problem, and that's true. And this epidemic of abuse, because that's what it is, you can call it what you want, but the numbers are staggering. And if half of the adults who are abused as children aren't even willing to talk about it, yeah, chances are that there's a huge portion of the population right there that has some sort of mental illness due to the abuse. My diagnosis is anxiety and PTSD. And those things will be treated for the rest of my life. Something that happened beyond my control when I was 6 years old will impact me every day for the rest of my life. And if you remember nothing about this, remember that. The abuse that occurs when you're a child changes who you are, and you will live with it every day for the rest of your life. Some people will treat it every day for the rest of their life. Some people will hide from it and run. But it never goes away. And you can't hide from it.